OpenClaw is everywhere on the internet right now, claiming to be the best thing since sliced bread for personal productivity with AI agents. But there's another side of the internet that's talking about all the security risks. We've done another episode in the past on ChatGPT agent mode, prompt injection, all the things that can happen.
OpenClaw is touching on the same dopamine effect of like a slot machine. If you want a personal assistant on your phone, if you have an iPhone and you didn't know this, go out and buy a Pixel. Now at 923, we're completely comfortable with using Claude.
There was this new study that came out from UC Berkeley talking about AI adoption.
And so Google's playing the same game. They're taking that same playbook that the American presidents did over the course of the Cold War. Alphabet is planning to raise, I think it was $20 billion through a bond sale to fund their AI infrastructure build out. Google's is free. Why are you going to pay $8 for?
Andrew, talk to me a little bit about what people aren't thinking about when it comes to something like OpenClaw.
Yeah, first of all, what is the purpose of downloading OpenClaw? If it's to hack, play, use agents, have fun with it, fantastic. Go use them. The reason why people are installing MacBook Minis and putting OpenClaw on MacBook Minis is because they're worried about the data and the leakage into other parts of their system. So they're isolating a computer with information that they don't care about and then putting it on the internet and saying how awesome this OpenClaw system is. What they're not telling you, it's like the curve that's happening with any vibe coded tool. You build the tool, you get the dopamine rush of like being a developer for a day, you publish it, you show everyone how awesome the tool is. A week later, that same account is not talking about them using the tool that they built for their YouTube channel or their Twitter followers or anything it happens to be. They are not telling you the results of it because the thing started breaking and they stopped caring about staying up late at night to fix it because it's no longer fun to fix something that's broken as opposed to fix something that's new. OpenClaw is touching on the same dopamine effect of like a slot machine. You are using a system to get answers in places that you never get answers before and connecting to different sources like your email or your calendar, and you're getting that agent to crawl and do things on your behalf. The second it starts doing something nefarious or incorrect, you have to go back to your computer, reprompt it, recode it, and get it to continue to work. The best example I've given to a client was I have an IoT house. I have over 50 switches at my house on an IoT platform. It is fantastic when it works, but it is so frustrating when a light bulb goes out or a light switch fails and I have to go downstairs, shut off the breaker, switch the light switch. My kids keep a task list and I have like 4 light switches that I need to go fix. And I haven't done it in like 4 months. Never mind having an agent that is doing nefarious things on your computer, having jailbreaks, escapes, different types of Trojan horses, different types of what they call sleeper agents and time bombs and prompt injection. All of those exist on this MacBook that you just installed, this time bomb that is eventually going to do something nefarious. And they also have their store, right? What do they call it? The Claw Hub. Inside the Claw Hub, you can go and get a community of all these different agents and you can have all these different things do specific ones for you. They're built by other users. Did that user build it safely or did they use it as a Trojan horse to steal information from you? You have no idea. And so you're basically succumbing to this open source tooling system, hoping that this agent is going to stay safe. It's not, but you're ahead of the technology curve. And so my first question is, why are you doing this? If you want a personal assistant on your phone, if you have an iPhone and you didn't know this, go out and buy a Pixel, because I have a personal assistant that I was trying to get a registration done. And I asked my personal assistant, my Gemini, by pressing and holding the button down, I said, I need my license plate number on my car. And it crawled my photos, found the 3 most common cars that I've driven in the last 5 years and gave me all 3 license plates from the picture and said, wow, your car X is this license plate. And I was able to sit there and get the results to the person on the other side of the counter without having to go find the license plate of the car that I wasn't even driving. I would have had to call my wife and say, what's the license plate? Those are the types of things that are already happening on Google. It's a personal assistant. So if your goal is to like speak into a phone, which is one of the biggest thing OpenClaw has, is the ability to have your phone be the dictator or the chat bot to do stuff in your life and have it do things on your calendar, your email, your Google Photos, and your Drive. That already exists. It's safe, it's secure, there's no prompt injection. It doesn't have to sit behind a MacBook that needs to be turned on. It already exists. And so all of you that are like doing this to like manage your calendar, you're fools. You're just wasting time when like iPhone and Android are coming out with this. Wait for them to do it properly and just invest your time in something that's going to be secure that you don't have to bug fix.
It seems like the speed of adoption is one of the biggest benefits to doing pretty much anything. We talked about, well, we're Gemini. We use Gemini for a lot here, Google Workspace. But Claude has connectors now. Mm-hmm. You could search Hrefs, you could do Figma MCP, Webflow MCP, all these things. And it's like, yeah, we're going to wait for Gemini, but this is really useful today and we don't know when that's coming. So how do you manage that trade-off of like, yeah, Siri is going to do this eventually, but like This is available right now.
Yeah, it's the same argument 10 years ago. If you were all at work, I used to work in the government, like for a government agency. So I had a laptop that was built by Dell. It was like 64 megabytes of memory. The processor was like 1.2 gigahertz. It was awful. And I had to go to work every day and use that laptop. And then I'd come home to this nice, beautiful Lenovo laptop with a touchscreen that had the capabilities of maybe 128 gigabytes of memory. And I remember being frustrated at work all the time, being like, I hate using this laptop. And I think what is happening is people are at home using Claude, at home using ChatGPT, and at home using these systems that are better than their work environment situation that they're a part of. And so just at work, like Gemini and Claude and Microsoft and ChatGPT are becoming operating systems. And at a company, you need to look, are you going to allow this operating system to be part of your workflow? Now at 923, we're completely comfortable with using Claude inside of a 923 environment for non-sensitive HIPAA, non-work environment stuff. If it's like process management or like maybe you want to update your calendars or things like that, fine. All work information has to stay inside the walled garden of Google's ecosystem because that's where our HIPAA and our SOC 2 compliance lies. Not all companies are like that, but they will be. And they will want you to make sure that that data does not go to an outside MCP API for the same reason that we talked about OpenClaw having time bombs and sleeper agents. As you put a prompt in or copy a prompt from the internet, that prompt itself could be a bad actor trying to extract information or send information. And so the companies need to realize that they need to manage their operating system, like we always did with either Microsoft or Google. And inside of that operating system, give them the tools so they don't have an old laptop. If they want to use Claude, great. Get enterprise Claude, have logins that are secure, and figure out how to get that SOC 2 compliance inside of Claude, inside of your ecosystem. And once you're there, then yes, use it safely.
We shared a popular graphic on LinkedIn this week, and I saw you shared it as well, where it was the what CEOs focus on. Mm-hmm. It's Claude, a Moltbot, now OpenClaw, whatever. That's the attention. But what they should focus on instead, which is not exciting, and you mentioned that at the beginning, like it's not cool to say, let me do the same operational audit that worked 5 years ago to figure out where I'm going to implement AI, the bottlenecks, the KPIs, employee engagement. What are employees complaining about? Time spent on revenue generating activities, these classic things that don't make the headlines. How do people reorient their focus to those things in such a loud environment of new tools?
Yeah, so most of the tools that are provided to you have the ability to enhance your workflows, to give you a better opportunity to work faster, to have, enhanced concepts. Humans innately have this problem, and we've all seen this with the stock traders or the gamblers online. When you see somebody trading stocks, you get entertained by these strategies or these opportunities of making a lot of money very quickly because the stock trading aspect is very entertaining that you can see such a quick return. And when a CEO then all of a sudden uses Claude and gets that quick dopamine rush of activity being performed by some agent and receiving an answer back, sometimes the answer is it doesn't matter as much as the fact that they were able to get something to give them back feedback that's in the general direction. And it's the same with stock trading. When you go and make a bet on a stock and all of a sudden it goes up that day, you feel like you're the champion of the world. And people then go on Twitter, and if they do that 5 or 6 times, they think they're a really good stock trader. The ones that win, and the people that I know that are doing very well on the stock market, and that's their day job, is they have a system in place and they trade at the same place. They have exits at the same place. They have trailing losses at the same place. And they just apply that system to the stocks that they see have the opportunity to be invested in. Sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes a month, but that system does not allow them to escape and just bet on the hot, shiny object. Claude is the hot, shiny object right now. People are jumping into it and just putting answers in and getting results and thinking that that's going to be their new operating system. What you can't do with Claude is work inside of a Google Doc with Claude or Microsoft Doc or Microsoft Word without copying, pasting your information out to Claude and bringing it back in. Your company needs to figure out how to integrate the large language model into your workflow so that as you're building that doc, all of the information about your research that would be provided for you to put in as a human side is right next to that document, secure, private, and able to be accessed by the user or your friend, or if you go on maternity leave, the next person in line can do the same thing. When you think of the system that can do that, it doesn't matter about the shiny objects. And that's what we try to tell our clients.
Jeez. Woo. Preaching today. There's the tool and the system for actually using the tool. And if you have a bad system, the tool is irrelevant. You could put the best model at the silliest operation and you will lose. That's super interesting. There was this new study that came out from UC Berkeley talking about AI adoption, right? And this cognitive overload. I think this kind of connects well with that people are getting overwhelmed by the number of tools that are available. The expectations are going up, the task cycles, and then also there's like a new layer of oversight in work. I know a lot of people have mentioned it's like having the answers to the question in your pocket and not going there. It's like, why wouldn't I not go to AI? But then there's these things that get missed. I'm curious, what's your take on that?
Yeah, this couples with the same article that came out this week or last week that the millennials SAT scores is declined for the first time in human history. Basically, the next generation is not able to keep up with the test scores and the cognitive loads that the previous generation has. And I think AI is just accelerating that finding. So the opening part of that article talks specifically about the AI adoption being a challenge, as its goal is to make life easier and work easier. But new research in that article is saying that it's doing exactly the opposite. It's raising the concept of like doing something for you without cognitively thinking of the process to get that done. We weren't like, whenever you read a good book, Simon Sinek is probably one of the best examples. His weight, like
Start with why.
Start with why, right? And his whole book, that's a very easy concept to understand. The title of the book explains the entire book. And you could ask AI to summarize that for you, and it will explain generally the idea that if you start with why instead of what, you're going to end up with a better solution for a marketing plan and a business model. Then he goes into, I don't know, 400 pages of stories of companies that started with why as opposed to starting with what. And now when I remember that book, I don't remember the title. I obviously messed it up. I don't remember the system that he was trying to teach, but I remember the stories. And the stories helps me understand the system that he's trying to point out. And so what AI is doing is it's removing the learning phase. And workers are not even reviewing or verifying or refining the AI. They're just going with the answer. So they're not questioning or challenging it. And you cannot be productive when you do that because you're not putting in the work to cognitively think of the inputs and outputs so that you can replicate that yourself. And if you just trust the AI and just like support the AI, you end up going down the wrong direction of like giving into something as opposed to being the learning person that's helping your company. And I think that's super important for kids, for teenagers, for adults, is the learning process, to struggle, to fail, to try to get around it. And when AI is constantly giving you the answer and getting it faster than anything before, it's not helping you become a better person or a better worker. And that's what the article is pointing out. It's like, we all want human validation. We all want people to tell us we're doing a really good job. So we use that AI and then we get the response, but we forget about the fact that like the next time they ask that question, we have to go use our little magical box as opposed to actually learning it and being smarter and giving it to a boss the right way.
Wow. It hurts. And I like the trend that I'm seeing with skills being developed into the AI. And I mean, that's part of what we do as well with connecting this tribal knowledge into a knowledge base that then gives the massive levels of context. So now you talked about all the disadvantages of using it improperly in terms of putting in a prompt, throwing something in there and hoping for the best. Can you talk a little bit about that other side now where you're using it intelligently to have it within an ecosystem and how that's different?
Yeah, AI is an accelerator. And if CEOs are using it as a way to accelerate their work, they're doing the other end of the bargain, which is it's like working with an EA. You're putting in the work and the effort and the memorization to know how the work should be progressed forward. And you're using the AI to automate the mundane and move your progression forward of like scheduling things or meeting things or getting information at your fingertips and removing all of that time it used to take to find the information, to click through documents, to schedule a calendar invite. It becomes an accelerator. And that same accelerator works in both directions. If you're a junior developer and you used Stack Overflow for your entire life and you just copy pasted stuff from Stack Overflow into the code and eventually it would work, you're now just using AI to copy paste into the IDE. And you're losing out on the learning process. You'll never become a better junior developer because you're just copy pasting. You're not actually learning the process of what it takes to build an architecture, to build a system. And when somebody challenges you and asks you, and you don't have your little magical box in front of you, and you can't provide that answer, it becomes very obvious that this cognitive difference is the problem. So what you want to do to use it correctly is use it as a guide, use it as a Sherpa, use it as an assistant, but still do the work of like collecting the initial information. Start the process by doing the hard work of getting the prompt really, really good. And you can only do that by researching it and understanding how you want it to behave and then hitting enter, and the results should speak for themselves because you're getting the result that you were looking for. You're seeing the action. And if you're doing it that way, you're actually still doing the part of the job, like writing a book or reading Simon Sinek's books. Like you're reading about the system and you're putting the process in front of just the answer. And I think that makes all the difference.
This is why we're so bullish on custom AI solutions,
Mhm.
because if you go online, the best advice is to do this massive custom setup for your Claude code. But when you're an actual business, you can't just do that on one person's laptop. It has to go across multiple users. So if that's something you are interested in doing for your company, a multiplayer solution for all your employees, hit the first link in the description where you can apply for a business AI strategy session with Andrew. Actually, he'll meet with you one-on-one and walk you through what a solution might look like for you. The last part of this, I want to talk about ads. Of course, Super Bowl was a while back. We saw that Claude, Anthropic was throwing some shade at ChatGPT because they have ads coming. Now, Google just said that their ads business is going to be impacted. Could we see ads come into Gemini? I don't know. I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on this whole ad ecosystem right now?
Yeah. The other part that came out of that news is that Alphabet is planning to raise, I think it was $20 billion through a bond sale to fund their AI infrastructure build out. I think where Google is putting their money right now is in the CapEx. I have been a huge investor in Google for the last few years, and I have pulled my money out of Google. It's not financial advice. It's just when you see a company do what Google's doing right now, they are trying to be, I mean, the perfect example, right? Back in the Cold War, one of the advantages that the United States had is that they had a massive stockpile of cash, and they had the ability to use that cash for the defense system. And so they told Russia specifically how much they were spending in cash on their defense system. And they were building all these great planes and tanks and everything. America obviously had the cash and the capabilities of building those systems. And what it did is it put the pressure on Russia to try to keep pace. And they did not have the economy to keep pace with the same amount of money and the same amount of technology that America had. So while the first day was very easy to compete, the second day got a little bit harder. By the course of 4 or 5 years, the USSR was forced to split up because they ran out of cash and their economy was really in the crapper. And what happened was America took the bet that like they have so many resources and they have so much opportunity. Let's commoditize building a plane. Let's make it so cheap for us that we can just build 100 if we wanted to. And Russia like couldn't keep up with that. And so Google's playing the same game. They're taking that same playbook that the American presidents did over the course of the Cold War of can we put as much money as possible into our AI infrastructure? And remember, Google has 3 stacks. They have the TPUs, so they have the technology and the silicon. They have the inference layer that they're building in-house. And they have on top of that, the software that powers billions of people a day. And so they have all 3. And the more money they can put into the AI infrastructure, the less opportunity anyone else is going to have to make money on a competing product. Because if Google's is free, why are you going to pay $8 for OpenAI? And once this ad program on OpenAI starts rolling out, I think we're going to start realizing that instead of paying $8 to OpenAI, why don't I just go to Google for free? And so Google knows that. And they're telling everybody right now, we're going to even sync our ad campaigns because the more we push the AI infrastructure out for AI mode on Google search, the less advertisement dollars we're going to make. And if 10%, 20%, 30% don't go through the regular Google search anymore, where there are Google ads, and they start going through Gemini and getting the correct answer, but without an ad, of course the ad revenue is going to take a hit. But if Google wins the AI race by overspending and making it a free model that no one else can compete with free because they have to, what is it? OpenAI has to make $1.4 trillion in 6 years or something like that to break even. There is no chance that they're ever going to be able to do that against a free product. They have to find a revenue model that is completely different than advertising, that is completely different than subscriptions, and completely different. Like they basically have to build a Google that makes money everywhere else and is one of the most profitable companies in the world just to compete. And I don't see OpenAI doing that in 6 years just to break even. And so that's the game they're playing. And that's what you have to be aware about at a macro scale is why are all these players doing what they're doing? And as you can tell, this is the answer.
If you want to keep up to date with these takes, these things that are happening in the space, but also from a practical perspective, something that you can actually find useful, then also hit the link in our description where our newsletter is, the AI newsletter worth reading, where Andrew actually shares his perspective on what's happening in the space at the beginning. And then you could see the top news pieces from our team. Andrew, thanks for another great episode.
Thanks. Have a good day, everyone.